Hey guys, Katie here, and I am so excited because with us we have Miss Shelly Hasch, and she is our mama that came from Minnesota. Say hello, Shelly.
Hey, hi everyone.
I am so excited. So we'll dive right in because I can't wait to hear your story. So, where exactly in Minnesota are you from?
So I grew up in a really small town in southwest Minnesota. The name of the town is Westbrook, but everybody knows where our neighboring town was from, which is Walnut Grove. So I actually graduated from Westbrook Walnut Grove High School. That's where Laura, Ingalls Wilder from Little House on the Prairie was from.
Oh, no
Um,
way!
yeah, so that's where I'm from. Small little town, about 800 people. My dream was to always move to the city. So I love the small town. I loved growing up there, but I felt like I was supposed to be a city girl.
I felt that way too. I'm from New Hampshire, a very small town, same thing. So, you went from 800 to now like 5 million.
Right, right. Well, and actually,
Okay.
the town where my children grew up has about 150 people, one tar road, and a couple stop signs. So I lived there for about 8 years. So that was an extreme change.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Let me guess though, they at least have a Walmart, right? Because every small town has a Walmart. Tell me they do.
No, neither one of the towns I lived in had a Walmart. No, we had to
Oh,
drive about 45 minutes to go to just get to a Walmart or any kind of shopping.
oh wow.
Yeah,
My
it was
goodness.
very different.
So tell me why you chose Arizona or Phoenix, basically. I mean,
Yeah,
you thought you always felt like you belonged in the city, which I can relate.
right, right.
Tell me why Phoenix.
So I've lived in other states. I lived in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina. I've kind of moved around a little bit. It's very hot and humid down there, so I didn't see myself living there. Moved back home to Minnesota, and my husband and I decided that we wanted to move somewhere warm, and we wanted to move now before we're retired, so that way we could enjoy the warmer climate. Our choice was between Arizona and Colorado. We didn't really know which one we wanted, but his theory was if I'm going to make a move, I'm not going to shovel snow anymore. So, so we decided in February of 2014 to come down to Arizona. Jeff's sister lived here at that time. And so we just wanted to see what it was like down here. I just pictured this dry, ugly desert. I'd never been here before. And when we got here, it was mountains and palm trees. And of course, she lived in Ahwatukee, so which is where we've landed and love. So it was just everything that I didn't realize what was here, I guess. I've never been here before. And we just fell in love with it. And the sun, it was February, and I was actually laying out by the pool. I got a little bit of a sunburn. And so that was I'm a sun girl. I love being out in the warm weather. I was never meant to live in Minnesota my whole life.
So it's you picked a good time to move to Arizona, though. I moved in July. How about that?
No, no. So that we visited in February. And then
Oh,
that was kind of like, well, maybe we'll move. We went back home. You kind of have that vacation land in your mind. But then we just really started talking about it. And my husband is a police officer. And so he actually put in an application to Glendale Police Department and a couple other police departments in the area. When he was here in February, did a ride along in Scottsdale, I believe it was, just to kind of see what it was like down here. And then we just started talking about it more in June. We got serious about it, and it was like, all right, I'm going to put applications out there, but if I get a hit, just know, we've got to decide if we're going to move. And, what I've heard is everybody down here loves people from the Midwest. We have a good work ethic. And so very quickly, I started getting job offers, flew down here the end of June for a working interview just to see what it was like. At that time, I worked in a dental office in Minnesota. So I applied lots of different places. I've got a marketing and healthcare background. So the job interview that I had down here was for a dental office. It was a new office that was kind of going corporate, and they needed somebody with experience. So I flew down for an interview, got the job offer. So I was looking at houses, looking at apartments, looking at all sorts of things. Ended up securing an apartment rental when I was here before I moved back home. And then like the next month was kind of a whirlwind. We put our house up for sale. We had to sell our camper, literally like 85% of everything we owned because we were just moving down in a truck. So
yep.
it was kind of crazy. It all happened really fast. That was kind of how it happened. First it was kind of a whim. It was a thought. And then the job offers came, and I don't know, here we are.
Well, I'm glad the job offers came, because if you weren't here, I wouldn't know you. So,
Right.
so you kind of got into it just a little bit, but I want to ask you in detail. How long did it actually take you to move, and when did you start making your arrangements? Like you said, the month was a whirlwind. You sold everything, and so when did you start that process?
So when I came back from my working interview, it was actually July 4th week. So we actually had a week-long vacation planned with our family. We like to camp, so our week was going to be up at the lake in the camper. So that was really kind of our planning week. And when we got back from 4th of July, we actually sold our camper before we left our camping vacation. So I had to clean out the camper and take everything home. Leave it there because they were going to come pick it up. And then when we got home, I literally just started gutting the house because they wanted me to start July 22nd. And I needed to start a week later. So we ended up leaving town July 22nd. But in between 4th of July week and July 22nd, everything was a whirlwind. We put everything in the garage. We had a week-long garage sale. Neighbors of ours were coming in and out, buying our stuff, selling our stuff. If we had it, we sold it. Because we picked a moving van size, and it was like, well, this is the size. So my husband taped out in the garage the size of what our truck was going to be, and whatever we kept had to fit into it. And when we started trying to justify, like, what are we going to keep? What are we going to throw? We would look at the next truck size, and it was like, well, it was $500 more. Well, I'm not going to take that bed and mattress because for $500 I can buy a brand new one. So really, it was being very strategic as to what we were going to keep. Personal things just was like, well, it's just stuff. It's just just scraper. It's just dishes. I can buy more. And so it was really just kind of coming down and figuring out what do we absolutely have to have. So I actually wasn't even around for the move. My husband drove me down in July, went back home to finish the close on the house, and he actually moved in September. So both of the times when we officially moved to Arizona, between myself and him, it was 118 degrees. So we rolled into Mesa, the edge of Phoenix, and we were like, oh man. Because when we were here in February, of course, it was like 75 and sunny and beautiful.
Oh yeah.
We were thrown to the dogs as far as Arizona weather is concerned. So
too funny. You ripped the Band-Aid off right away, and then you're good to go.
But for me, I've always loved being out in the sun, and my dad is the exact same way. I grew up on a farm. I grew up playing outside all day, every day. So for me, being outside, I was like, well, my worst day in 118-degree weather, I spent at the pool, drinking margaritas, hanging out with friends, doing barbecues, versus the flip side of the weather, which is why we chose to leave. I got really tired of scrunching my body up and hurting because it was so cold, and I was just not a cold weather person.
And me either. And I was born in the very northern tip of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So Mount Washington, if you're familiar at all with that side of the world, Mount Washington is one of the tallest, if not, I think, the tallest mountain perhaps on that side of the Mississippi. I don't know my stats right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
But what I do know is that Mount Washington has the world's worst weather recorded on top. So you can imagine what the bottom is like.
Yeah, no way. When we live in Southwest Minnesota, where the winds just blow. So in the winter time, man, there's a lot of times we'd look out the window and we couldn't see our neighbor's house.
Oh,
so
dear.
That's just not for me.
No, I feel you. Did you come? No, you have 2 boys, right?
Yes.
Did you come with your boys, or how did that all go?
Nope. We came empty nesters. My youngest son actually was going to move down here with us at that time, but he chose to stay back for sports. He wasn't 100% sure if he'd get to play when he was here. He had 2 years of school left, and really, it was about 3 days before we decided to leave. He just decided, no, I didn't want to come. I'm going to stay back, which was a hard decision. It was really hard for me, and my boys are my life. Yeah. So then I'm torn with, oh my gosh, I've sold my house. I've sold everything I know. I've owned. What do I do? Do I stay? Do I go? We made the really hard decision to go. My oldest son was actually already out of school. He was actually joining the Air Force the same week that I was moving down here. So yeah, it was a really hard decision, like gut-wrenching mom decisions.
Oh yeah.
But I flew back often to see him and, had him down to visit. And then he actually came down here and lived with us for a year after he graduated, just to kind of see what it was like down here. And like I told you earlier, I moved back home for a girl.
Darn girls. So that's kind of something that I found, I was real nervous about before moving to Arizona, and I've been here 15 years. I was real nervous about missing family and friends and all of that. And what I actually found, and I was thinking in my head, I don't know, sky's falling, I'm never going to see him again. No.
Right.
We have Skype or Zoom, like what we're talking about right now. There's always the phone. And turns out when you live in a destination state, people like to come and visit.
Yeah.
So,
the joke for us at work is like, everybody's like, is your house just kind of listed on Airbnb? Because we always have somebody visiting. And whether it's my parents, I've had my aunt and uncle down here, we've had friends down here, the kids are down here all the time, or we're flying back home. We're a 2-hour plane ride home. So it's
not bad.
No. So we see family a lot. That was one of our concerns, is that we weren't going to see family. And we feel like we see them almost as much as we would if we were back home. Maybe not as much, but it's a pretty close comparison. And we get to enjoy the sun.
Exactly. And you probably have more meaningful interactions now than if you lived next to them.
We do.
You take advantage of that. And I know exactly what you mean. I probably see my mom. Well, no, I probably physically was in the same place with her more, but I probably communicate with her more and at a deeper level now, being this far away than when I lived, a town away.
Right. Well, and then for us, just kind of an offshoot of our decision, how it's impacted my parents. My parents my mom has actually her whole life lived in the same house. So for 60 plus years, she's lived in the same house that she grew up in, which is really cool. But they've decided to move to Arizona. So they bought a retirement home here. My dad's going to retire in February. So pretty soon they're actually going to be about 3 miles away from us. So it's really cool. We're looking forward to that, seeing them actually slow down and enjoy the weather and not stay inside. Because at home in Minnesota, when you retire and you're not as active, you're literally just, you become housebound because there's nothing to do. It's cold, it's rainy, it's wet. You don't want to go outside. So their lifestyle will change because of our decisions. So that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. And I live in Ahwatukee too, as you know. And I love how we've got the mountains. It's kind of quiet, but we're plugged into everything. We've got the freeway, and we have some retirement communities here in Ahwatukee. So I'm actually looking at the same thing for my mom.
I lost sound, Katie.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, you're back.
I was just saying, don't you love Ahwatukee, how we have the mountains, the freeway, but it's still kind of quiet and off the beaten path, and retirement communities. It's awesome.
Yeah. What we really like about Ahwatukee, and we live down in the foothills, and which we didn't even know existed when we came and visited. We have our own little small downtown that reminds me of a town that I lived in that had maybe 2,000 people, because we have a hardware store, a grocery store, a gas station. We've got somewhere we can go and get pizza. And so we don't have to leave the area. It's about a 5-minute drive if we go out of the foothills. It's not a big deal. But if we just want to run to the store, it really has that small downtown feel. You go into the grocery store, all the kids are very friendly, all the workers are very friendly, and it just really feels, to us, I forget that I live in the city. I don't hardly ever get to the downtown area, and when I do, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I kind of live in the city, but to me, it doesn't feel like the city.
So true. I have the same exact feeling. What's the biggest difference that when you moved here to Arizona that you discovered between where you came from and here?
Well, the biggest difference, obviously is just the outdoor life. I like to be very active. I've played volleyball my whole life. I actually just retired sort of about a year ago due to some injuries. I just can't do it anymore. But everything is just always outdoors. We can go for walks, bike rides, hikes. We can camp year round. My husband and I love to camp. And so we would start camping in April. We would end in the fall. And you'd maybe hope for a few really nice days, but now we can actually camp year round. We just bought a camper. So like the limit for what we want to do is just like whatever we want to do. We can drive 4 hours and go to the beach in San Diego. We can drive 3.5 hours, go to the beach in Rocky Point. If we really want to see snow again, we can drive 2 hours north in the winter. So there's like so many different climate changes here within a couple hours drive, and you don't have to really be stuck with anything year round. That's probably the biggest difference. That, and I think the other thing that I found was navigating the healthcare system was really different. Where I lived, we had an 11 clinics specialty system where you could just go to the doctor, and it was your normal doctor. You'd see him at the grocery store, on Friday night buying their groceries, and then you'd see him in the clinic at your well visit or if you were sick. And so it was a real community feeling. If you needed to see a specialist, they had specialists within their system. And so I didn't have to records transfer. I didn't have to figure out who to go to. They would refer me to whoever.
Yep.
The biggest thing that I found out here is the healthcare system is so like segmented. You have so many specialty offices on every corner, and it's like, who do I go to? Who do I start with? Do I want a family doctor? Where do I go? I don't want to have all these places that don't talk to each other. And so for me, I feel really guilty, but they told me I could go 3 years, but I went 4 for the first time since I've lived down here. Just went to establish myself with a medical doctor because I just felt like I didn't know where to start. And so being from Minnesota, the Mayo name is really strong there. And so that's actually where I went, because I know that if I need to see a specialist, the Mayo system is going to refer me to one of their specialists. It might be in a different satellite campus, but at least all my records are there. So it was kind of similar to home. And I think if I would have known and understood that from the start, it maybe would have been helpful. So that was probably the biggest struggle, mental struggle I had, because I've always been about health and fitness, and I kind of let that go for 4 years, and I don't feel like I should have.
That's a huge point, though. Again, I moved here 15 years ago, but I realized when I moved here in my mid-20s that you kind of have to be in charge of your own healthcare here. Where back home, it was sort of the same thing that you're describing, where you just had your doctor that you always grew up with, and he or she called you when you needed to come in. And
right.
Now you have to do it yourself. What's up with that?
You do. You have to put all those reminders. Oh, in 3 years, I have to go back.
Exactly. So I found the same thing. That's really interesting. Last question. Well, I guess I have a few more. Sorry, not the last question.
That's okay.
If there was any area here, doesn't have to be Phoenix Metro, just Arizona as a whole, is there any area that you can go to and you're feeling maybe a little homesick and you want some Minnesota feel, in terms of like the people, the sports teams, scenery, just straight up feel? Is there a location here for that?
I wouldn't say that, I don't know, there's an area I go to, but well, I mean, I guess just really for me, driving down into the foothills, and there's a lot of people from Phoenix that don't even know Ahwatukee exists. And we've driven to a lot of the areas in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa, Chandler, Tempe. What I really love about when I come to the foothills, and when we decided to move down here, we drove and we built a house. That was our dream, is to come down here and build our retirement home, which we did. But as it was being built, we would drive weekly, and we'd drive down into the foothills. And if you've never done it, just come to Ahwatukee and visit the foothills. And when we would get to our little downtown area, like I talked about before, that would make me feel like home. Because we have a couple lanes of traffic and maybe some stoplights where I didn't have stoplights at home. We had stop signs. It just makes me feel like home because it feels small town.
Totally.
It's like I'm a small town girl at heart, but I love the city. So really, like, the foothills here, it just screamed home for us, for both of us. It wasn't like one of us was drawn here. And just like, I love a sunset drive down into the foothills. I think it's the most beautiful place in Phoenix, and it makes me feel like home. I don't have the cornfields, and I don't have all the lakes, and because Minnesota is the land of 10,000, well, it's really like more 100,000 lakes. We have so many lakes.
Right.
I don't have that here, but I get that that feeling of home when I come down to the foothills.
And coming up, as you I'm sure know, in the next month, the foothills is going to be all lit up, and they have
Yes.
lights.
Oh, my favorite time of year. I love that.
Yeah,
yes,
I do too. People actually that are aware of it, because you're right, a lot of people aren't aware of it, but people actually come here just for that.
right. It's so pretty. They were putting the lights up the other day, and when I drive to work in the morning, it's still a little bit dark, and the lights were lit up because they were wrapping them around the cactus, and I was like, oh, it's so pretty. It's my favorite time of year. I love it.
Totally. No, I agree with you totally. When I didn't live in Ahwatukee, I came just for that. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
what do you wish you knew before you moved that you know now? Besides the
Oh,
healthcare thing.
right. Besides the healthcare thing. So my husband was a police officer, and when we decided to make the move, obviously he put in his applications. He had 12 years of experience in law enforcement, so he was very seasoned. I wish I would have known that it would take 7 months for him to get a job. The law enforcement hiring process is really, really long. It's not like you just get hired and you're in. You get hired and they interview you and they talk to everybody that you put down as a reference, and they background check you and they test you, and then you wait and you wait and you wait. So when he moved here in September, he was going through that process because it was too hard for him to be back home, because he would have to fly down for this and fly down for that because they needed to meet with them, and he wanted to feel available. So when he moved here, from September to January, the end of January, he didn't work. And so that was really tough. We didn't expect it to be that long. It didn't really give us an indication, but any other job I've ever had, I've never had to wait 7 months. And even like back at home, when they need to hire a new deputy into his department, it was maybe a month or two process. It was never 6 or 7.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Good to know.
so if anybody's out there in law enforcement trying to transfer to Phoenix area, just know it's going to take a while. So maybe we would have made a few different decisions. Maybe we wouldn't have. I don't know. We made it work somehow. But it was really hard for him to be unemployed for that long, because he's a worker. He's got to be doing stuff. So
good point.
I wish I would have known that. That and kind of going back to when I was talking about getting rid of stuff, like really just decide what you need to keep that's important to you, that like really means something to you, because stuff is stuff. A mattress is a mattress. And really, like what we did, like I said, we taped an area in our garage. That was what we were going to take, and everything else just kind of stayed behind, and we sold it. That was really helpful for us. It was something my husband thought of doing. I would have never thought of it, but it happened really fast. We didn't have a lot of time to plan. We were just kind of engulfed in the moving. So it's all just this big blur. And even to this day, if I'm looking for something, I'm like, I think I probably must have sold that.
Oh, that's hilarious. I did the same thing. Unloaded as much as possible. A couch is a couch, I mean,
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun when you get here you don't know where you're going to live most of the time,
Right.
where you're going to like end up landing. And so it's kind of nice to be able to set up and start fresh.
Right. I would say, one other thing that I would say is I wish I would have known about all the groups on Facebook. That the one thing, like Phoenix is so connected. Phoenix, Chandler, Tempe, Scottsdale, everybody has all their own community groups. And I wish I would have known that Ahwatukee 411 existed, or even Mom Nation existed, Arizona Mom, all these great sites. Then you could ask questions about, hey, I'm moving from Minnesota. Where's a great place to start? What's a good apartment complex? What areas should I avoid? Just some tips from moms, because that's what I love about all those sites is you post something on there and it's such a community. Like you just really feel like everybody's out there wanting to help you. It's not just a site where people go to complain about things. It's a site where people truly go to help people find what they're looking for. I wish I would have known those existed, because I'm an online person and I would have asked probably 1,000 questions before I moved here.
I totally agree. And you're not my first mom that has said that. Like, just the group thing is really awesome. And I always thought, well, other states must be like that too. No, they're not. Like,
no, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. Yeah. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered enough. We love it here. People ask us all the time, do you think you're ever going to move home? We look at each other like they're crazy. Are you kidding me? Right now, like I love this weather right now. It's starting to get a little cooler. I'm in a sweatshirt. I'm a sweatshirt girl. So I was a sweatshirt sweatpants girl. I've had to transition to flip-flops and sundresses, but any chance I get to put a sweatshirt on and just kind of feel that comfy, cozy, feel back home, that's what I do. So the weather now is beautiful. Obviously, vacation season starts for everybody here.
I know. I love this time of year. Like, let the hiking begin, sister.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Well, it was good to talk to you. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.